We are trying to sail south, down the notorious Mozambique Channel to South Africa, but the wind has turned against us. We now find ourselves fighting to make progress south, and in a race against the weather, to reach port safely before the next southerly storm arrives.
We're Matt and Amy. We left England in 2016 on a mission to sail around the world. Just the two of us on our 37-foot sailboat, Florence. 5 years on, we have sailed over 35,000 miles across 3 oceans, exploring new countries and cultures along the way. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good actually. The wind's arrived. We've got 25 knots from the south. We've just rigged up the staysail and we've put a third reef into the mainsail, and this seems perfect. We're making about 5 knots in not too far off the right direction, and if we can keep this angle and keep this sea state, then we should be able to keep nice and clear from the coast. So if it stays like this, I'll be very happy.
So sea state isn't too bad at the moment, and that's because importantly we managed to get out of the current before we ran out of wind. And then we made a decision that instead of motoring towards where this new wind was coming from, we actually turned south, directly south, and motored south in the no wind area between the 2 weather systems. And that gave us a little bit more distance off the coast, so now that we're sailing we've got more sea room basically, and it also gives us a slight advantage later down the track by being further south now. So we invested 6 hours of motoring to give ourselves get better set up for this wind coming in now.
The motion of the boat when sailing upwind is very different to our usual downwind rolling. Now instead of sailing with the waves, we are pounding into them, and that makes life much less comfortable on board. This weather is nowhere near as bad as what we thought it was going to be. I thought the seas were going to be about 3 times this size, and I actually really enjoyed my watch this morning. This is the best place to be in the boat when we're bouncing around like this, and when you're not on deck and on watch. We tend to spend all of our time just laid horizontally on this bunk here. And it's quite difficult to sleep when the weather's like this, because I don't know if you can hear the noise inside the boat, but it's quite noisy most of the time, and then occasionally you'll just be drifting off to sleep and will launch off a wave and then come crashing down, and your bed just kind of disappears and then reappears again beneath you. So it's not the easiest of sleeping conditions, but normally we get so tired that we don't even care anymore. Matt totally slept through me taking a reef out of the main earlier today, which is quite loud, so I think that says something about how tired he was.
Well, what a difference 12 hours makes. We came into the night really worrying about how much wind we were going to have, and we did have quite a lot of wind. At one point we had 25 knots over the deck. We had all 3 reefs in the main and the staysail on, which was perfect for those conditions. But the waves that we were worried about just have not, touch wood, yet appeared. And it's actually fairly flat out here. So we've actually now gone back to the full Genoa, and we've got just 2 reefs in the mainsail because the breeze has dropped off to sort of 17 knots, and we're starting to make more progress. We were a bit slow through the night because we were very loath to increase sail area and speed up because we were worried about what might come. Now we've got a bit more sail out and we're making good progress. In 5 years of sailing around the world, we have never wished for any boat other than Florence to sail on. At anchor, yes, we would prefer a bit more space and comfort, but when actually sailing, she is perfect for us.
Definitely been hot bunking it today. Just got up for a couple of minutes to get some shots of on deck, and I looked down below and Matt's already in bed before it's even had time to get cold. It's one of those days. Haven't seen a lot of each other today. So the good news is that we're nearly out of this southerly system that we're bashing into, but we've just downloaded the latest weather forecast, and on Friday evening we're looking like we're going to get 30 knots again from the south and in Richards Bay, so an area where the current is really strong. We've decided to push on and just try and make as much progress as we can. We hope that we will be able to get into Richards Bay ideally in the morning, but if not by afternoon on Friday, so just before that system comes through. So hopefully the weather forecast won't change and it start coming through any sooner, but yeah, no chance to relax sailing down the Mozambique Channel. There's always the weather to keep you on your toes.
Well, it's always a race against time to get in. Last time when we were sailing into Seychelles, it was a race against the setting sun so we could see to anchor. Here, because we're going into a big commercial port, we can go in at any time of day, but we've got to get there before this horrible southerly system that's coming up. So it's a case of watching the distance to go and watching the speed. At the moment, I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it reasonably comfortably with about 6 to 10 hours to spare before that system comes up. But you never know, the next forecast could show that system coming up 12 hours sooner. So it's best to just push on as fast as we can and get there as soon as we can, because once we're in, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Racing Florence across the ocean. Don't normally trim the spinnaker constantly, but we're in really shifty, fluky conditions. Got a lot of current helping us, but the wind's all over the shop, so if we just put the spinnaker up and leave it, it would kind of flap, and then we wouldn't be going very fast at all. So this is what you normally do on a race boat, is where you keep trimming it and keep the spinnaker just on the edge of the curl, which is its most optimum shape. I've also had to use the autopilot a little bit to bear away when the wind really shifts around. And I've got the sheet coming across from the winch. It normally goes onto this one, so I can sit on the windward side, see the spinnaker and reach the autopilot. And I've got some tunes and a cup of coffee. Perfect sailing conditions. What's not to like?
This just goes to show how quickly conditions can change at sea. Just last night we were pounding at wind, but now we find ourselves in the transition zone again, with the wind reducing in strength and shifting through 180 degrees in direction.
We've actually had more breeze than we expected today. We were supposed to have to motor for about 6 or 7 hours, and we've actually been able to just drift along gently with the spinnaker up, which has been beautiful, nice calm sailing.
We're now in a really good situation that we've only got 100 miles left to go, and that's going to give us plenty of time to get into Richards Bay before this strong southerly comes in. But the wind forecast now is for the wind to increase, and we're also coming up to a patch of really strong current, so that's going to dramatically increase our boat speed and potentially have us arriving in the middle of the night. Which isn't actually so much of a problem in Richards Bay because it's a safe port to enter, the charts are supposed to be good and it's supposed to be reasonably well lit. But entering at night is not as easy as entering during the day, and there is an additional risk with that. So we prefer not to if we can. So we're just going to drop the spinnaker and put 3 reefs into the mainsail, so that gets us ready for this stronger wind that's coming. And I think we'll pole out the Genoa as well because we're going to be running dead downwind.
Doing all of that means a bit of work on deck for us. First we ease the pole forward to put the spinnaker in the wind shadow of the mainsail and make it easier to pull the sock down over it. We call that snuffing the spinnaker.
Then we drop the spinnaker onto the deck, and since we're not in a hurry here, we took the time to flake the sail nicely into the bag so that it's untangled and easy to put back up next time we want to use it. Now we deal with the spinnaker pole. We need to move it from its low position for use with the spinnaker to a higher position at the mast track for use with the Genoa, which also means moving where the ropes holding it in place lead to.
With the foredeck all prepared, it is time to move on to reefing the mainsail. To do this, we need to get the Genoa out and sheet it on hard on the leeward side.
Rounding up.
Then we can round up into the wind, sailing on just the Genoa with the mainsail flapping loose, ready to put the reefs in.
Matt's just putting each reef in individually so that it's much easier if we decide that we want to take a reef out in the middle of the night, then we've just got to let one of the reefing lines off and pull up the halyard.
It's down to the first reef point. Make sure that one's in nice and cleanly.
So I'm just luffing the Genoa a little so that we're a little bit higher than close hold, and that just means that the mainsail is flapping because it's all the way off, and it takes all of the pressure off the cars at the front of the mainsail.
Okay, that's the second reef in.
Taking the pressure off the cars means that it's much easier for Matt to both lower and hoist the mainsail, and it's also much better for the mainsail as well.
Okay, that's 2, so going for the third one. Now we've got the halyard marked everywhere it needs to be, so we know exactly how far to let it off to get the third reef in.
Although with our reefing system, you don't have to go out of the cockpit to reef. As we're not in a hurry, Matt is just checking to make sure that the reefs are all neatly in place on the boom and that there'll be no chafing on the sail.
It's in, tighten up on the halyard again. And now we're going to stop because we've got no sail area up.
Yeah, well that's okay. We need to slow down anyway.
So the only problem about putting all 3 reefs in one go like that is it creates an absolutely massive mess of all the ropes in the cockpit. So now I'm going to take about 10 minutes to coil all these up individually so that they're ready in case we need to do something in the night.
We've got mashed potatoes, eggs and beans for dinner. Hopefully our next meal we'll be able to get some fresh vegetables. I think it's been about 5 weeks since we were able to get some decent like salad or fresh vegetables since we're in Seychelles.
I think you might be a little bit optimistic. I think we're going to be stuck on the boat in quarantine for a few days,
Yeah,
looking
or
at
maybe.
everybody having nice food on the shore next to us.
Yeah, maybe. Well, not long till we can have salad and maybe even a glass of South African wine.
I want a steak. Oh, let it rolly.
I don't know about you, but I've been dreaming about the meals that I'm going to have as soon as we arrive in South Africa, accompanied by a nice glass of South African wine.
Like I said, steak, please.
Richards Bay Port Control, Richards Bay Port Control. Sailing Yacht Florence, channel 1-2, over.
Florence Control.
Good morning, Port Control. We are 1 mile from the breakwater and requesting permission to enter the harbour. We are an international sailing yacht arriving from Mayotte, over.
What is your flag?
British flag.
Call when you're closing in.
Thank you. Florence will call back when closing in on the harbour. Standing by on 1-2. Well, this is it. We are approaching Richards Bay, South Africa.
Exciting! Exciting to be in a new country. Not been to South Africa before. New, hope to see lots of wildlife. But most of all, get tied up, get checked in, get allowed ashore and get some food.
And some sleep. I think we're both running on about 2 hours sleep from last night. It was a bit of a difficult night for sleeping. Once we're inside the harbour, we need to tie up to a really big wall, which is I think covered in barnacles, but there's a 2-metre tidal range, and so we've got all of our long lines and fenders ready, and we're hoping that we've got enough. Once we're on the dock, we need to wait for somebody to come and give us a PCR test, and then once the results of that are through, they said it'll probably take about 4 to 6 hours, then immigration will come, and then potentially the police.
Our friends on the 50-foot Steel Sapphire, who left Fogo Island with us, had arrived just 10 minutes in front of us and were there to take our lines. All 6 of the yachts that we left Fogo with arrived in time before the strong winds hit, and then we just had to negotiate the formalities of checking in.
We did the PCR test soon after we arrived, but we had to wait until the next day to get checked in with Health, Immigration and Customs. Well, it seems we're in South Africa. I woke up this morning to a monkey staring down our hatch. We were keen to complete all the paperwork so that we could move off the barnacle-encrusted wall and into a berth around the corner at the Zululand Yacht Club, which will be our home for a while as we recover from the passage and prepare to sail down this wild coastline to Cape Town.
Well, we got here safely and we checked in, and then we've moved round to the Zululand Yacht Club marina here. And now we're getting the weather that is what we were really trying to avoid. This is why we wanted to get here quick. There's a real strong southerly blowing. We've got 30 knots blowing through the rigging. Even though we're on the dock, we're heeling over on the dock, and the wind and the rain are just whistling through the rigging. We would definitely not want to be out there now, and we are very happy to have successfully made this passage without having this sort of condition out at sea. So now we can relax and recuperate, explore, and then get ready to sail on down the coast to Cape Town.
Next time, we set out to explore the amazing natural environment in South Africa. We find wild landscapes that left us in awe. And wildlife that was a little more wild than we bargained for. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and click the bell to get a notification when the next video is released. And let us know what you think of the video. We love reading all your comments.
We would like to thank everyone who supports us, and especially our star patrons.